Okay, having done these few preparatory drawings, I'm going to go on for a value drawing now, a value study in charcoal. If you want, you can do this in paint if you find it a little easier. I like the feel of charcoal. It's a nice sort of bridge between drawing and painting. So I've made my page much larger because the charcoal is quite a crude medium. It doesn't do detail very well. The other thing it doesn't do very well is leave out whites, so I'm going to lift my whites with a putty rubber. So what I have is a piece of willow charcoal, putty rubber and a brush. So I'm going to do the drawing out again. I'm going to draw the boat. This is just a guide. For me to work around with the charcoal. Now I need to assign values to all of these things. So I've made a little chart here with 6 values. Now you could use 6, you could use 10. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we get these things in order and we get them working correctly. So the lightest thing in the scene, the lightest detail in the scene, is probably the white on the boat. So the boat has a couple of values, doesn't it? It has a very light value, kind of a grey, somewhere around a number 3. And then on the hull it has 2 slightly darker values, not as dark as this. So we're talking somewhere around sort of 3 and 5. The sky is all very light, but it's probably a value 2. The water, then we've got 2 things going on. We've got light on water and shadow on water. So all the time we're looking at light, shadow, light, shadow. So the light on the water is probably close to that value, which is around a 3. The dark on the water is probably a 4. And we come down into the rocks in the foreground, we're talking about 5 and 6 there, quite dark. The other thing then we have is the spray coming off or the foam coming off the sea. So we've got a value that's in shadow and we have a value that's in light. So first of all, I'm going to just put a light grey value all over my canvas or my paper. And I'm going to shade it in. As I said earlier, it's much easier to lift out whites than to try and work around them. So that's why we go for this middle value. Now this middle value should be close to the second value, which will be the sky. So there's not really much I need to do with that sky. The only thing I might look at is where the gradient of the blue part of the sky comes down. It goes from relative dark to a relative light. So I might just lift a little bit of that out. It's very subtle, but overall that sky is sort of a value 2, number 2 there. So the next thing I'm going to do is probably pull in the water. So push that down to about a number, well, if that's a 2, it's going to have to go down to a number 3. And that'll represent the lighter value on the water. So that's the lighter value on the water. We can then add in a little more charcoal for the darker value. And that represents a shadow falling on the water. Okay. Now let's come in for the boat. The hull of the boat.